Today is the day, ladies and gentlemen. We are transforming my MAN TGE 4x4 panel van into a camping adventure rig fit for any landscape photographer. So sit tight, grab yourself a cup of coffee, because in this video, we are smashing through a lot. First things first, we need to establish the priorities of the van. Number one, it must be lightweight. This means using lightweight materials where possible and thinking twice about those unnecessary heavy items such as, I don't know, like 100-litre water tanks and things like that. Number two, and this is in no particular order by the way. Number two, possibly one of the higher priorities, it's got to look cool. This means that some of the decisions around this van build are based on nothing more than desire. Boys and their toys, etc. Now, we're all guilty of it, don't pretend that you're not, and in some instances, priority 2 might well contradict priority 1. We'll see. Number 3, functionality. Yes, they have to look cool. Ideally, they need to be as lightweight as possible, but they need to serve a function. They can't just be there for the sake of being there, unless they look really cool. But generally, the van has to function well as a camper for a landscape photographer. Priority number 4, comfort. It's got to be warm, it's got to be cozy, it has to have a lovely, inviting seating area, nice lighting, a nice big bed, and after a long, hard, cold day in the field, I want somewhere lovely to come back, relax, and unwind. The final priority, number 5. Not DIY. This van cannot in any way resemble a DIY van, even though technically speaking, it's exactly what it is. But what that means is perfect finishing and attention to detail. This van is too flipping expensive and too nice to not do a proper job on. Right, on to the first job. We need to actually weigh the van. And big thank you to Elements Photography Magazine for sponsoring this video. So we are going to a public weigh bridge. We're going to weigh the van before the build. It's completely empty right now, and we have about 1/8 of a tank of fuel. And then when the build's complete, we will weigh it again. It is critical that we do not go over 3.5 tons. That would be a disaster. I'd like to weigh this vehicle if possible, please. Lovely, thank you, cheers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the results are in. So the vehicle, without me in it, bear in mind I also had my steering lock and this camera mount, which you are currently sitting on. The weight of the van is 2,420 kilograms, so just less than 1/4 of a ton. I weigh about 75 kilos. So yeah, let's call it 2,500 on the nose with me in it. Now we know what we have to work with. I tell you what, it's going to be a nerve-wracking day when we go back to weigh the van when it's completely finished. Anyway, the first job I need to do on the van is build my own roof rack. Now this is a tricky job. Remember, we've got priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, and priority 5, all relevant here, and we need to meet all of them. Have I ever built a roof rack? Of course not. Not built anything. So it's going to be interesting. I'm making this roof rack out of extruded aluminium. It's lightweight, strong, easy to work with, and makes bolting on accessories an absolute breeze. Oh, and it looks cool as well. So your rudimentary roof rack system is pretty straightforward. You have 2 rails running down the length of the vehicle, like this, the side of the van. And then you have a top and a bottom cross support, like so. And then you can have rails in between which mounts all of your gear. That is a standard roof rack. But we're gonna try and do better than that. The roof rack I'm designing is gonna comprise of 8 pieces rather than 4, and it should look a lot cooler. Now, none of this is to scale, so use your imagination a little bit, but we have our length rail sections here and here, like so, running down the length of the van. And then we are going to angle in at 22.5 degrees. So our roof rack is going to taper in 45 degrees at the front end and at the back end. So rather than just a plain old rectangle, which can look a bit homemade, we're going for a far sleeker, more professional aesthetic. Unfortunately, it does rather complicate things, and there is no margin for error. Just in case there was any confusion with my little piece to camera then, the angles that I'm cutting into the aluminium are 22.5 degrees, and when those marry together, it creates a 45-degree taper. So the side rail has been dry fitted and dropped in place. It all seems fine. I'm going to use butyl tape to make it all watertight and to fix everything into place. Let me just be clear, when I say butyl tape to fix everything into place, I am not gluing this roof rack on. All it does is secure my brackets into place so I can bolt them through the roof. Alright, so that is all 3 brackets in place and the passenger side rail down. Now you might be wondering, how are you going to bolt this to the roof single-handedly? Well, I've got a plan. Alright, so in theory now I should be able to thread this bolt, no problems at all. Let's see about that, hopefully it doesn't turn. Well, that worked an absolute charm, and I was able to bolt the roof rack on single-handedly with no problems. So the real difficulty of this roof rack build is getting this point perfectly square with this point. A job that feels nigh on impossible considering nothing on this van is square. The whole roof rack needs to slide forward by about 1 centimetre because of the reverse camera, which is sitting too high. It worked! Okay, great news. The front tapered piece is measuring exactly the same length as the back one, and the back one was a perfect fit. Oh yes. Ladies and gentlemen, the roof rack mostly complete. I feel like the cool factor of the van is about to go up a notch because I have these lights that have been provided by laser lamps, and I feel like these are going to transform the van. So we have 2 high beam grill lights. You put these into the grill, there's a bit of cutting required, a bit of wiring required, both of which make me quite nervous, but I'm sure it's going to be quite straightforward. Now the beauty of these lights is that they are ECE compliant, which means they are completely road legal, and these will last an absolute lifetime. British company, laser lamps, and honestly I don't think you can get better quality lights on the market. And it's not just these that we're fitting, we have more, but let's just get this out of the way first and then we'll do the rest. So I'll be honest with you, I have never wired anything into a vehicle in my life, but to be honest, this looks pretty straightforward. Positive and a negative. This goes to the van battery, this goes to a ground. These 2 plugs go into each light. And then the scary bit is that this little wire needs to splice into the high beam wire. I'm pretty certain I know which one the high beam wire is. In fact, I do because I tested it with the multimeter. Just gotta commit now. Alright, that is positive and negative wired in. Let me tell you, having no experience with auto electrics and having a very expensive brand new van, this was a horrible job. But it all went very well, snipping the wire and splicing in the signal wire for my laser lamps grill kit. Well, I'm not gonna lie, it was my first ever time with auto electrics, and I didn't enjoy that at all. It was fiddly, I was nervous, pretty convinced I've done the wrong thing, but it's all wired in, spliced in, so these 2 lights now, in theory, when I switch on the ignition and engage the full beams, they should come on. Oh, it works! Oh, I don't believe it, I've just blinded myself. So that was the scary part out of the way, and now I need to do the next scary part, which is hacking away the bumper to fit the lights. But thankfully, Laser Lamps provides a cutting kit, which basically means you can't go wrong. It's a clip-on template, and you just cut around it. Nice and straightforward. Well, thankfully there's no drilling or cutting on this next install. These are laser lamps Utility Series. And they look like this, very cool, and we're gonna mount these on the bonnet. But wait, there's more. We are putting a set of Agent Panniers on these. That's right, yellow bonnet lights. Thankfully, no drilling required for this install, but it does mean loosening the bonnet hinges, where there's always a risk of the bonnet falling off, which luckily it didn't. Bonnet brackets are on. Now we'll get back to the lighting because there's more to add to this van, but for now I need to sort out my solar panel, which I took off my old van, and I'm putting it on the new van. Now this is where planning and thinking ahead is really going to pay off. It's really important that wherever I have my entry cable point, that I can access that entry cable point in the future when the van is all built out. So I'm thinking like up here, this is like above the kitchen, above the sink and all of that area. Well, there's going to be a cupboard up here, right? Then if I need to add more cables in the future, or perhaps change a cable or do whatever, well then it should be pretty straightforward to drop down one of the kitchen units, which is just going to be modular, a couple of bolts, and that's the kitchen unit in. And that means easy access to cables coming in from outside to the van. We're also having a storage locker cupboard thing up here, so I'm thinking about there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have our first hole in the van. It's pretty good apart from this corner here. I couldn't get the jigsaw around because of this bit of roof rack. So whilst the primer dries, we need to do solar panel and reverse/rear work lights. I've got a T-bolt pushed through the bracket of this light. That's just going to slot into my profiled aluminium. And then as I tighten the nut, the bolt will turn and lock into place. And then when that's in, I just go in with a spanner and nip it up. There we go. 2 reversing work lights fitted, but not yet wired in. This is my 160 watt solar panel off my previous van. It's a grey panel and has an efficiency of 20%, which means you get quite a lot of solar power for the footprint of it. Like a glove. So I splashed out a little bit on my entry gland, 55 quid. But it's a very nice one. It's made by Scanstrut and it kind of looks like this. Now the reason I got this one is because it has in it a rubber bung, and you can see I've drilled 3 holes in there. Those are the holes that my 3 cables are going to go through. But what I like about this unit is I can add cables if I need to. So in the future, if I want to add more accessories to the roof, it's really easy for me to pass a cable through and into the van. So this is where having 2 people would come in really handy. I have 4 of these tiny M3 size bolts to screw in. Now they are pushed through all 4 corners, but I need to secure them so I can go into the van and thread on the tiny bolt and washer without the top spinning. So one of these and a tiny little bit. There we go, hopefully this will work. Place that in and then clamp this on. There we go. Gently does it. Don't spin. Do not spin. By far one of the biggest challenges of working alone is tightening your nuts and bolts. You have to get quite innovative with how you do this, and you're going to see this throughout the van build. Okay, couldn't possibly be bothered filming the whole thing, but we are in, and I'm pretty confident that these are very secure, absolutely caked in Loctite, and solid as rock, going nowhere. Just going over each of the internal screws, press it in, and then make sure that it is fully watertight. I don't think I've ever seen a cable entry gland as attractive as that one. It's worth every penny. 55 quid, expensive, but I think it's an investment. So if you're putting cables through your van, definitely look at one of those bad boys. Now, before we press on to the next thing, I just want to do a bit of housekeeping, if you will, if you don't mind. Now, you may well have been drawn into this video through the title and the thumbnail, and you might, as a result of that, be a new viewer of the channel. And I just want to let you know that this is not a van life channel. I don't convert vans like constantly on the channel. I did one, a Delica, 5 years ago, and loved it, and now I'm doing this one. But primarily this is a landscape photography channel, and the beauty of that is that I use my van to facilitate my photography. So I go out to locations all over the UK and Europe, sleeping out, camping out, and doing photography, right? So if when we get to the end of this build series, which fingers crossed will just be in 2 or 3 videos time, don't go away. Stick with me, because we use the van regularly, and I would encourage you to subscribe. The reason being is that as soon as YouTube realizes I'm no longer doing a van conversion, it's going to stop recommending my videos to you. Now, I don't like letting algorithms control what I watch. That's why I subscribe to anyone I like, and hopefully you guys will do the same and subscribe, and yeah, stick with me as we actually go on and use the van once it's been built. Secondly, we need to discuss a very sensitive subject which might result in a few negative comments. Feel free to comment below and get involved in the discussion, but I want to talk about free stuff. Now, a lot of gear is going in and on this van, most of which has been bought and paid for by myself. However, because I'm fortunate enough to have this channel and have you wonderful audience, it does mean that I can reach out to companies and say, hey, would you like, I'm going to buy this thing anyway, but maybe you could send it to me for free and I'll mention it in a video. And it helps cut down massively on the cost of the build. Now, most companies said no. Like, a lot of them either don't reply or just say no. Some of them will give me a little bit of a discount if I just show the products being used, and some of them will send me the products for free in exchange for me showcasing and mentioning the product. Now, I think it's really important that you know that. I'm not going to try and get anything past you. I respect my audience, and you should know when free products are being used. What I would say is that, like, this isn't a van channel, so nobody knew that I was converting a van, so no one reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to try this product in your van? None of that. I contacted everyone, so everything I got for free or discounted, it was already in my basket. I was going to buy it. I just sent a cheeky email on the off chance, and some said yes, a lot said no, some gave me a discount. Sorry, dogs down here. In this video, Laser Lamps gave me their lights for free, and Jackson's Leisure gave me a discount on their windows. So now that we've got that out of the way, back to the build. So my budget for the build has increased ever so slightly. I got myself a 3D printer, and it all came about out of spite. Right, so I've been following along on Nigel Danson's van build that he's been doing for the past year or so. Stealing ideas, looking for inspiration, that kind of thing. And every now and again he'd mention they did a thing on a 3D printer. And for me, 3D printing was out of the question. Never done a 3D anything. Well, once I designed some aluminium furniture on Tinkercad. But aside from that, nothing, zero experience with 3D, zero experience with anything like that. CAD, never. So I dismissed it. I thought, oh, that'd be cool, and it must be nice to have the money and the skills to do 3D printing. And then my roof rack happened, and my roof rack is made out of this stuff, which is profiled aluminium. And you get little end caps, little black plastic caps that you can finish off the ends of your profile on. And my roof rack was finished, apart from 4 plastic end caps. I forgot to order them. So I went on the website, put 4 caps in my basket. They're about £1 each or something like that. And then I went to check out, and they wanted 15 quid shipping. And I thought, what, that can't be right. 15 quid shipping for what will be a tiny envelope, should be £1, £2 at the most. So I emailed the company. I said, look, I've done this massive order. I'm going to do another massive order. Is there any way you can just either send me 4 caps so I can finish my project, or, I'll buy them, just give me proper postage, a few quid if that's okay. I just can't pay 15 quid postage for what I know is £1 or £1.20. Anyway, they come back and they said no. So I was fuming. I was furious. So I thought, right, well, screw you. I'm gonna print my own. So I went onto Amazon just to get a ballpark of how much these things cost, because I had zero idea. In my mind, the 3D printer is thousands of pounds. 200 quid. 200 quid. So I did a bit of research, looked around, found this one, which is a bit more expensive, but I think this was about £250. Ordered it, downloaded some free software called Fusion 360, and in less than 24 hours, I'm printing my own components for my own van build. Oh, it's good. So this is the finishing I was talking about, where I need the plastic end caps, but actually, I need more than that. Look, this is where the 3D printer comes into its own. This is my roof rack bracket. It's absolutely solid, bolted right the way through, solid aluminium shims here, and then this piece of profiled aluminium, but it looks really ugly. I mean, look at it, it's just not attractive. You see, it's all bolted on, it's not great, but 3D print yourself a nice little cover. That, bear with me. That, my friends, now looks OEM. I'm telling you, 3D printer is an absolute game changer. So this next job I have been putting off for as long as I possibly can, and is without a doubt the most terrifying job of any van conversion. Windows. We are going to install 2 of the 4 windows. These are the Adventurer windows. I purchased these from Jackson's Leisure, highly recommended, great service, and they pretty much have everything you need for your camper van build. I've got 2 of these. These are small windows that are going in the back of the van where the bedroom is, and these are the first ones we're going to install. The bigger ones will be done a bit later. Now, there are several reasons why I went for the Adventurer windows. Reason number 1 is they look cool. Let's be honest, we'll not kid ourselves. A lot of the decisions around this build are because it looks cool. The second reason, actually probably more important, they're double glazed. So these are beautifully insulated against the cold. Third reason, they're tinted. Fourth reason, they open outwards. We'll demonstrate that when they're fitted. Fingers crossed, touch metal. Because they open outwards, you can open them in the rain. They're called safari style windows. Another reason, in theory, and we'll get into this, you can tell I'm delaying here, I'm procrastinating, but in theory, they are really easy to install. They are reasonably priced, and they're actually plastic and not glass, which makes them more secure. Although it's all kind of irrelevant, because, well, you just smash the passenger window to get in, don't you? So there are 3 ways that I can severely mess this up. The first way is that I cut a hole too big. But with an accurate template we have there, it's pretty unlikely. I don't like saying that out loud, but measure 19 times, cut once, you should be fine. The second way I can mess this up, and the most likely way, is that this window is wonky. And the reason for that is nothing on this van is straight. All of these lines all swoop in and curve and bend. So getting a 90-degree angle and a straight line, and yeah, you've just got to do it by eye. You just got to visualize it, look at it. Does it look straight? It's a bit like when you're doing landscape photography and you take a photograph where there's hills and then some sloping land and the horizon looks wonky even though you know the horizon's straight. Same thing. And the final way you can mess this up is by creasing the panel here. And I'll explain more about that once we actually get to pushing the window into the hole. I have been visualizing that moment going so wrong for weeks now. All that worry for nothing. Which is basically a perfect fit. Oh, I'm getting a bit cocky there, but I keep an eye on that so I don't get overconfident and make mistakes. But we've removed the second window now, give it a clean, and add some primer. So I mentioned before that it's possible to crease the panels of your van when putting these windows in, and the reason for that is these panels on this van, they're curved. They have a 5 meter radius. So you create a wooden frame like so, lock this into place, and then your window pushes through, and then kind of the wood acts as a spacer and sandwiches the window to the frame, as you'll see in just a few seconds time. But the problem is this piece of wood is straight, this bit of metal is curved. And where that gap appears, when you squeeze the window and the frame together, it wants to pull this in. It pulls it into that void where the wood is straight and the metal is curved. So I came up with a solution. Actually, I did not come up with this idea. I completely ripped it off from Nigel Danson. And basically what I've done is I've 3D printed these shims that have a 5 meter radius. And now you probably can't see that, but you're gonna stick these on there like so. And that shim will fill the gap and hopefully prevent any creasing. Now this really ought to be a 2-person job, but it seems I always work alone. So I have a plan on how to press this window into place single-handedly. It may or may not work. This may be the genius tip that everyone's been looking for, or it could just be rubbish. So that window is now pressed into place, but you need a bit of force on it whilst you attach the inside bit. So a pair of ladders leaning against it, and then a 10 kilogram weight bunged off the ladders. And hopefully this will do it. I'm hoping that this should be a beautiful finish. Oh, I'm nervous. Always nervous. All right, that went pretty well, I'd say, with really hardly any cleanup at all. Yeah, just don't look too closely at all of that blue roll on the floor. I now repeated the same thing on the other side of the van, and hey presto, we have 2 windows in the van, and I could not be more pleased with how good these windows look. So before we continue on, I'd just really like to thank the sponsor of this video, which is Elements Photography Magazine. So Elements Magazine is a beautiful monthly online magazine or digital magazine. You can download the editions. And honestly, if you're a landscape photographer, the work in that magazine is incredible. And I don't like to use this word too often, but I'm going to say it. Fine art. The magazine features incredible photographers like Michael Kenner, Chris Burkett, Charles Kramer, Rachel Talabard, John Sexton, and many more. So where are we now? Mid-October, so perfect for autumn. This month's issue is all about autumnal photography, the best season for photography, and hopefully, God help us, I'll be getting out soon and actually take some photographs rather than messing on with this van, especially after reading Elements magazine, which is just filling me with this desire to get out and shoot. But I'm kind of knee-deep in this van build at the minute. In December, there is a special issue all about minimalist photography featuring Bruce Percy, so that's gonna be good. Now, if you pay $99, that will get you an annual subscription, and included in that annual subscription is obviously your monthly issues, but lots of special issues as well, such as that minimalism one. However, if you use the code Thomas15, you get 15% off that annual subscription. So I think if you're a landscape photographer, it's well worth a look. I know I'll be reading it on those long, cold, dark nights in the van. It's like perfect fodder for getting your juices flowing for a nice landscape shoot. So we are about to completely transform the look of this van. Once this is installed, it's gonna be an absolute off-road beast. At least it's gonna look that way anyway. The rear door ladder and tire carrier. This thing's entirely made of aluminium. It is incredibly lightweight. You see that? one arm. Although as soon as I put a spare wheel on here, it won't be as lightweight. It has great utility because obviously it carries your spare tire and is a ladder giving you access to the roof. It looks great, but I guess the one downside of this is it was flipping expensive. But it is a custom-made accessory. Quality is incredible. And, well, there's just no other option. You've got to pay the money. So let's get it installed. So it turns out that the stock spare wheel is actually a bit heavier than the alloy I'm adding to the ladder, so I'm not actually increasing the weight of the van. Now this ladder is designed to take quite a bit of weight. You've got the spare wheel itself and, well, it's a ladder, so it has to take my weight, and in order to do that, I've had to change out the hinges on the van. These are reinforced hinges, much stronger than the stock ones, but an absolute pain to fit. I didn't really film it because it took me, my wife, and my father-in-law about 3 hours to switch these out because we've got to hold the door and line everything up. But these are what's going to take all of the weight, or most of the weight anyway. There's another point down here that we need to drill out. Oh, god damn it. I've just peeled off all of the protective foam, and beneath was a gouge. Oh, that's devastating. Ah, no. Now, I did reach out to the manufacturer asking them if they could perhaps send a repair kit out, and whilst they did agree to, it's been many weeks, months actually, and still nothing, so I'm not holding my breath. I have to say that was a really easy install, not difficult at all. I think it looks amazing, it has utility, it carries the wheel and it allows me access to the roof. All in all, very pleased. Apart from the minor damage on the very, very expensive rear ladder.
Access granted.
So I am cutting another hole in the van and installing a Max Air Max Pro roof. I don't know the name of it. It's a flipping roof fan. I was excited about this. It's going to give airflow to the van, be able to suck out all of that condensation and cooking smells. But honestly, I keep hearing bad things about this fan. I know Forestry Forest made a video saying don't buy one just after I'd bought this fan. So yeah, I don't know, I'll report back in a year or so and see how we get on, but it looks very cool and it does work amazingly. Well, I think the laser lamps finish off the van something beautifully. And if you want to pick up some laser lamps for yourself, there is a link in the description below. I get no commission, but at least they'll know you came there from this video, which, well, you know, makes me look good for getting free stuff. Now let's talk about the roof rack. I am very pleased with it. I think it looks great, especially with those 3D printed brackets. There's tons of space up there. It's solid, it's lightweight. Now, as it stands, it's still missing a few accessories. They'll be coming either in the next video or the video after that. I am really pleased with how these angled ends have turned out. The front and the back and how it tapers in, I think looks incredible. Now these, they're not that strong. Like, I wouldn't stand on them, I wouldn't put anything heavy on them. But a couple of lights, no problem at all. In fact, all of the support and the weight and the strength is actually in these bars here that are just about 12 inches back from the tapered end. So that's where all the strength and support comes from. Really, this is just for show. I can confirm as well, after several weeks and many heavy downpours, the MaxFan roof fan is 100% watertight. Touch wood, it has not leaked, and that was one of my biggest concerns. So I've done a pretty good job, and I'm pleased with that. Although I do need to clean this whole roof. In fact, I need to clean the entire van. It's a bit of a mess. Yeah, it's looking very good. What do you think of the colour of the van? Like, just out of interest, I've had so many comments on the previous video about the colour. It is, if you're interested, flannel grey, but it looks a bit baby blue in some lights. So I was thinking about getting a wrap or maybe getting some graphics on the side of the van. I've never had any vehicle wrapped or anything like that, so I don't know where to begin. If anybody has any suggestions or recommendations or even knows any companies in the Northeast who wrap vans or do signage, sign writing, leave a comment below with your suggestions, because it's something I might consider. I'm undecided. Either way, I still think the van is looking amazing. I still want to add some roof decking to the roof rack. I also need to add 2 more windows, and I am considering, and again, let me know in the comments if you have a VW Crafter or a TGE, or in fact any large van, considering a lift kit. This is something I'm unsure of. At the minute, I don't think it's necessary, but when it's built out, especially if we don't hit priority number 1, it might need a lift kit. Again, any recommendations for lift kits would be really appreciated. Either get in touch or let me know in the comments below. Make sure you join me in the next video whilst we tackle the interior of the build, from insulation to electrical wiring, building the furniture, laying down the floor, cutting and covering all the wooden panels, laying some L-track, trying to fit a ceiling, struggling with lights. Oh, it's all coming up in next week's video.